Hey everybody, this is Dave, and so with DC finally expanding their movie universe with the upcoming Batman v Superman, the anticipation and curiosity is growing a lot in all of us. And one interesting question that's come up surrounds a certain sequence that we've all had glimpses of in the trailers. The one I'm talking about is the one with the trench coat wearing Batman in some desert wasteland type place that has been dubbed the Knightmare sequence because of this Comic-Con statuette called Knightmare Batman. I mean, when you look at it, this was a pretty crazy sequence. It's got barren wastelands, desert Batman, Superman soldiers fighting Batman and bowing to Superman. It's got an evil Superman. It's got what can only be parademons. And now this photo has come out showing Darkseid's Omega symbol. It's got a destroyed city, pillars of fire in the sky, and some other alien architecture or structure thing in the background. Oh, and Batman's carrying binoculars and an assault rifle on his back. And he's snapping people's necks. Also interesting. So the question is, what's really going on in this sequence? So the prevailing theory is that this is a glimpse into the future, or a potential future, a future where Darkseid has conquered the Earth and has enlisted Superman as his disciple, and perhaps Darkseid has now left the Earth under Superman's reign. And Batman, of course, is on the opposite side, and perhaps this sequence shows us his last-ditch effort to stop Superman. So first of all, it's almost irrefutable that this is anything but a vision of the future, but questions remain like, whose vision or nightmare is this? How did that person get it, and how does it affect the present events? So first, let's address everyone's initial assumption that this is probably Bruce Wayne's dream or nightmare of the future. The first question that comes to mind is, how would Bruce Wayne receive a vision of the future at all? After all, he has no powers, he's not magical, he's not psychic or clairvoyant, he probably doesn't have a future glimpsing machine like the one in Tomorrowland. So how and why would Batman have this dream? Well, the first explanation for this would be that there is no explanation. Maybe it's just a thing that happens in the movie. You can call it fate, destiny, or just storytelling. Maybe Bruce just has a precognitive dream. After all, there are many people in the real world who believe in precognitive dreams, that just plain ordinary people like you and me can and perhaps do have dreams of the future. Some people believe that such dreams are what trigger deja vu. Some people think the dream world is a real place. Maybe dreams give people access to some other plane outside of space-time, all that mumbo-jumbo. So maybe Batman just happens to have a dream of the future. I'm not totally on board with this idea, however, because it just seems way too vivid and specific to be the dream of a regular dude, precognitive or not. I just think in a world with superpowered characters, you just need to reserve all that paranormal and superhuman stuff to those characters. So if Batman can start dreaming of the future all of a sudden, then where does it end? Okay, so then on the flip side, if we assume that Bruce Wayne is unable to have such a dream on his own, what could be another explanation? Well, there are plenty of characters out there that might be able to give Batman a dream or vision like that. Though not one of Darkseid's actual superpowers, he is godlike enough and advanced enough that he himself, or a character like him, could easily find a way to induce such a dream into Batman. There are plenty of other mystical or cosmic characters in the DC universe who might have a stake in Earth's future. The Spectre, Dr. Fate, Orion, Etrigan, Raven, Nuranal, Sandman, the Guardians, the Presence or the Source, any of the Olympians who are enemies of Darkseid and Apocalypse, and will surely play a large role in Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam's origin, and so on and so forth. Perhaps it's another powerful character who induces Batman's nightmare. Perhaps it's a vision meant to be a warning to Batman about the future, or perhaps it's even meant to be a self-fulfilling prophecy that is the catalyst that sets Batman against Superman in the first place. And speaking of that, I think this is one of the reasons I think that Batman having the nightmare versus another character is actually a good thing, because a very realistic vision of the future where Superman has ravaged the Earth and now reigns over it like an evil warlord is a pretty good motivation for Bruce Wayne to really want to take this alien guy down. Just the events alone of Man of Steel are not super good motivation for a super detective like Batman. If dum-dums like us can see that Superman is a good guy and he's not the cause of Zod's destruction, then the greatest detective in the world should be able to determine Clark Kent's true character and allegiance. Of course, he would always be wary of Superman, and he would for sure create plans to eliminate him should the need arise. But the real Batman would realize Superman was overall beneficial to the world, I think. But if you give that Batman a vision of an impending Superman Armageddon, now then he has an urgency to do something as soon as possible. And with that kind of urgency and that kind of motivation, his comments to Alfred about if there's even a 1% chance that Superman is not good, then he needs to be destroyed, would make so much more sense. Because that logic, although it sounds pretty good at first, when you think about it, if that is Batman's Batman's regular default logic. And he's pretty much going to have to fight every other Justice League member from here on out, because the other Justice League members have the power to take out the human race as well. I mean, Wonder Woman is just about as powerful as Superman. Aquaman is almost as strong as Wonder Woman and Superman. Then you combine that with the fact that he's got his own army and power over sea creatures, which include insane mythological sea monsters, and the ability to control tides and cause floods. And then, of course, there's the Flash, who might actually be the most potentially dangerous Justice League member, since he has the ability to travel through time and reality itself. Flash could create a paradox that could destroy the entire universe, not just the Earth. Green Lantern wields a weapon with insane power and can also actually be used for time travel. At least it has in the comic books. Cyborg, he's a bit less of a danger to the human race or the entire Earth as the other ones maybe, but if he did go bad as a technopath, he could probably take down the internet and the stock market and banks and records and cause like a global depression. So a similar kind of Armageddon. So if Batman has this logic that anyone who's got the power or capability of, taking out humanity needs to be taken out, no matter how small the chances are that they'll turn bad, then good luck with taking out every other hero with power to destroy the world there, Batman. You're going to have a long fight ahead of you. But anyways, getting back to the vision, another thing that could actually induce such a vision in Bruce Wayne could possibly be Kryptonian technology. So we saw in Man of Steel that Zod was able to use their technology to enter like a virtual world of sorts with Superman, where they are essentially inside a vision of Zod's future plans for Earth. Whether or not that was an actual vision of the possible future or just a really good Kryptonian PowerPoint presentation, who knows, but they have this technology that can produce these very realistic visions in the mind. So there is a possibility that maybe Bruce Wayne procures some Kryptonian technology from the wreckage of Man of Steel, and while he's fiddling with the technology, he subjects himself to this vision of the future. Okay, so now let's talk about the possibility that someone else has the Knightmare vision. Really, the only other possibility that is plausible is perhaps that Wonder Woman has the vision of the future. She is a mystical/magical character, so even though precognition isn't in her regular power set, it's definitely more believable that an Amazon can experience clairvoyance than just a regular human who happens to be Batman. Maybe Wonder Woman has a vision of the future, and that's what compels her to intercede and get Batman and Superman to come together. Perhaps she just has a dream, or maybe even one of her Olympian superiors shows her the vision, and it's her job to try to stop this from happening, and that's her role in the film. And now there is another possibility altogether, and that is, what if it's not a nightmare or a vision at all? What if it is the actual future, and we're just watching events of the actual future as the audience? After all, the Comic-Con figure was called Knightmare Batman, not Nightmare Batman. Maybe that's just their name for post-apocalyptic wasteland Batman. There's the possibility that perhaps the movie starts off in the future, and Batman and other Justice League members like Flash, Cyborg, and maybe Wonder Woman and Aquaman too, are launching an attack on Superman and his army of soldiers and parademons. And that's another thing, we all thought that the addition of Wonder Woman and Aquaman seemed a little crowded, and then we learned that Cyborg and Flash were also going to be in the movie, and then it just didn't make sense. Like, how are they going to put all these characters in there? How in the world could they possibly introduce all these characters in a natural way in this movie? And to that, I actually think the answer is that 2 or 3 of them will only be included in this future sequence, which would totally make sense that they would be there. I think that they'll be a part of this sequence, whether or not it's a vision or an actual scenes of the future. And if it is actual events taking place in the future that the audience experiences in real time, that would be a way to introduce these characters that makes a lot more sense. I mean, introducing the Justice League members in this way would be a lot more natural. It would be a way of visually introducing the characters and their powers, and wouldn't detract from the main plot by needing to shoehorn in a bunch of expository intros or origins. So I kind of hope that at least Cyborg and Flash, and maybe even Aquaman, are just present in this future sequence and not necessarily in the main present-day through line of the movie. But we'll see, I guess. So if it is actual events taking place in the future that the audience experiences in real time, it wouldn't be a stretch that the movie has a structure similar to Days of Future Past, where our heroes use time travel or send a message through time to the present day in order to stop this future from taking place. This is something we see frequently in DC. Someone, usually the Flash, travels back in time to prevent some horrible future from happening. So using that device in the movie universe actually fits very well. So maybe like the Flash travels back and warns Wonder Woman before disintegrating into ash. Or maybe Cyborg, or even Lex Luthor. I mean, there is that Lex Luthor body armor toy after all. Perhaps an armored, bald Lex Luthor shows up in this Nightmare future sequence, fighting alongside Batman against Superman. But maybe they use some kind of technology to send a message back in time. I think it would be kind of cool and kind of ballsy if Snyder started this movie off in the future. Like I said, it would be a great way to introduce the characters and their powers visually. The only challenge would be in making sure not to confuse, casual audiences who aren't super familiar with the DC universe or characters. But it wouldn't be too hard with a simple narration or something like that, just like they did in Days of Future Past. But what do you guys think? How will this Knightmare sequence integrate into the film? Do you like the idea of Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman being featured only in this sequence and not in the present day plot? Do you think it's a dream, vision, or just scenes of the future? And do you like the idea that this dream is what compels Batman to take on Superman? Or the idea that maybe this dream is what compels Wonder Woman to get involved? So go ahead and comment below with your thoughts and share this video with your friends and we can get a discussion going. But that's it for me. I'm out.